What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Lakers Outsiders podcast. Gary Kester here with you as always, joined by two of my usual guests. First, introducing from Indiana, still probably buzzing that Thomas Bryant is a Laker. You got to see Thomas Bryant in a Laker uniform today for the first time. That must have been a thrill, Jacob.
I didn't even have to make the joke either. Harrison did that. It's the best Bryant to ever play in a Laker uniform, in my opinion.
It was weird. It was really weird seeing a Bryant and then not 24 or 8 with it. So, yeah, I mean, you had people saying you got to retire the last name. Like, nobody with that last name. Like,
your name's Bryant. You're off our draft board. Sorry, bud.
Could you imagine? Yeah, could you imagine? Like the Lakers sign, another player with the last name Johnson, and they're just like, no, sorry.
No. Sorry, Wesley Johnson, the return's not happening.
Oh, that would have been a good thing. But anyways, and on that note, Dylan Heiser is with us making crude comments. Dylan, you're like Kevin Dean making comments about Wesley Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, if he ever comes back to the Lakers, I might actually turn into Kevin Ding. So I don't know. I'd rather not do that.
Oh man, yeah. Let's not dive into that subject right now. But
oh yeah, did I tell you about how D'Angelo is really lazy and he's like, what was the word that he used?
Aloof.
Aloof. Yeah. By the way, D'Angelo's aloof, and Lonzo's going to lead the Lakers to the promised land. So,
but
yeah.
Well, that second part's true.
Right.
Well, it's Lonzo's time to shine. But all right, so it is June 29th if you're on the West Coast, but June 30th if you're everywhere else in the country. Well, except for Hawaii, but only Ty lives out there. So, yeah, that means free agency is less than a day away. I mean, it's less than a day away for everybody, but we're going to dive into this. The Lakers have a pretty full roster as it is, so free agency is going to be kind of weird this year. They've been very open about going into this free agency period and not spending a lot of long-term money, or really any long-term money, because they want to preserve as much cap space as possible for summer of 2018, where they can go after guys like Paul George and LeBron James. We'll see. We'll see what happens in a year from now, but Jacob, I mean, what are your thoughts on this this method that they're kind of employing that? I mean, the previous regime had kind of the same ideas, right? Going after these big name free agents and saving money, and it didn't work out. So, I mean, should we expect anything different with Magic and Rob Pelinka at the helm?
It's frustrating, to say the least. It's the same. I mean, Magic would sit there on Twitter and complain about Jim Buss and Mitch, and then jumps into office and immediately does the same thing that led to them getting fired. So, I mean, I guess from one standpoint, Rob Pelinka, Magic Johnson, and Luke Walton are probably going to be a better recruiting team for free agents than Mitch, Jim, and Byron Scott were. I don't even know that Byron was involved in the meetings, but but I mean, it goes without saying. We've seen how this plays out. You're putting all your chips on one thing, and the Lakers have struck out a lot. So I don't blame fans for being upset. I mean, I know Magic said he's betting on himself, but we're tired of seeing this, and we're just gonna sit through all of this offseason and 2017 just summer, and inevitably we'll strike out again. So I mean, it's frustrating.
Yeah, and Dylan, I guess the reasoning for Pelinka and Magic is kind of this renewed energy with around the front office. They say they feel it every day. Are you buying this at all, or do you think they're going to run into the same luck that they've been having?
I mean, I'm buying it to an extent. I think that as opposed to previous years, I think the Lakers do have a little more to offer on court, even though they weren't very great last year. They got a young head coach that's like an attractive, destination for free agents, possibly. Possibly Ingram and Man, I almost said Russell there. Possibly Ingram and Alonzo. They look really good next year. That might help them out a bit, but I don't know. It's the same tactics that haven't worked for years and years. The thing, though, that is a little bit different is that they will hopefully go into next summer with 2 max contract slots for free agents. So the past summers they've only had 1, I believe, and so that might have an effect. Being able to tell a free agent, like, pick somebody else that you want to play with. We can get both of you guys to come over here. So that might help a little bit. But I mean, as far as the vibe being a little different, I'm not really sold on that at this point. I think that it's still a hard sell for me. But Lincoln does a good job because he's probably the most optimistic person I've seen on the face of this earth. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you look like Rob Lowe, I mean, you can be very optimistic in life, I think. So, but no, that is an interesting point, though. I can hear myself echoing with somebody, but I don't know. No, it's an interesting point that 2014, the Lakers would have had that selling point if not for Kobe's big contract, like that ate up a ton of cap space, and it prevented them from having 2 max slots open to be able to say, hey, if you get a superstar in the room, we can get you and another star that's on the market of your choice. Like, if you guys want to play together, we can make that happen. The Lakers are still far away from doing that because they're still going to, there's still deals that have to be made for that to happen. They still got to shed Luol Deng's contract, which is going to be harder than getting rid of Timofey Mozgov's deal, in my opinion, unless he really bounces back this year, which, I mean, it could happen if he's productive and, he'll have 2 years left on the deal next summer. So that makes it a little easier to move. But if they can, work around these deals and create that space necessary to offer 2 max deals, it might change things. Jacob, I don't know. Are you feeling a little different because there's 2 max deals that they potentially offer? Or do you think just if the Lakers say they don't get Paul George in a trade this summer, or even if they do, say they're around 500 or something, is that enough to really get, to get any of these guys on board?
I'll admit it feels a little different, mainly because of Paul George. At this point, I don't want the Lakers to trade for him because with how many reports have come out, I'm pretty confident he's coming to LA. I mean, it's going to take him going to in Boston probably and winning a title for me to even get worried. But outside of that, this isn't even the first time we've kind of cleared cap space to make a run at LeBron, 3-4 years ago. It's deja vu. All of this just seems so familiar because we did it 3 years ago.
The Lakers have kind of had this approach every year since 2014, right? So, yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of teams, I think Eric Pincus brought this up today, is that a lot of teams will operate they want to have that flexibility, but they don't make deals until they have a deal in place with a player, like the Rockets did with Chris Paul. They had these players, but it wasn't like they were trading them beforehand before they even got in the room with Chris Paul or had any kind of indication that he would be coming. It's not like they were just trading away Patrick Beverley and Sam Dekker and whoever else was in that deal, just for a chance at him. Like, that deal, they had a deal in place and sent those players for him. Like, that's a really big difference. Whereas, I don't want to keep talking about the D'Angelo Russell trade, but I think it almost feels like they jumped the gun a little bit there. But at the same time, I think that's because you didn't have to shed the Mozgov deal right now. Like, you still had a whole year to figure that out. But at the same time, they might have felt like we were offering an unprotected first-round pick, and nobody wanted to take it. So they just figured this is our chance to get rid of the deal or the contract, and we've got to take it. So
that has to be. I mean, I saw it brought up today, but that has to be the only reason they did it now, because they were scared that the opportunity to shed Mozgov's contract wouldn't come. Because otherwise, especially now when it doesn't sound like you're going to acquire Paul George in a trade. I mean, yeah, that deal still frustrates me. I mean, Magic went on today and Spectrum and said that, D'Angelo's a great player, but they wanted to pass first point guard and play him at shooting guard. It's just, I don't want to harp on it either, but that one's going to sting for a while, because that one didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, they must have really been worried that they weren't going to be able to get rid of Mozgov's contract and just like pulled the trigger right away on that. That has to be like the only explanation. And even then, when it's just an explanation.
Dylan, does that worry you that they won't be able to trade Mozgov's deal? Or not Mozgov, Deng's deal?
It does worry me because I think outside of the number 2 pick at the time and Brandon Ingram, D'Angelo Russell was the best piece that they had. And I didn't really know that it would take I didn't think that he would be one of the guys that was moved. I thought that it would be either that 28th pick or Randall or Clarkson or something like that. But I didn't think that it would be like one of their top prospects to get rid of one of those contracts. I thought that they would, value over a little higher than the cap space that they would be getting. So as far as the Deng deal, I think that it might be a little bit harder to shed because they don't have another top tier prospect like they did with Russell that they're willing to get rid of, because all reports have been saying like they're trying to hold on to Lonzo and they're trying to hold on to Ingram, which rightfully they should. So I just don't know what kind of assets they're going to be able to attach to a deal to make a team want to take on, 2 or 3 years, however many years are left at the time. $18 million a year for a guy that, really did not look good at all last year. Like Mozgov, I thought looked like a lot better than Deng, and they had to give away Russell to get him off their books. So I think it's going to be really hard for them to get the Deng deal off unless they can, just swindle somebody out of a deal. But I don't know. It's going to be tough for them.
Realistically, the only time you're going to be trading Deng is if hopefully this is you're trading Deng because you have like to sign. In that case, I would be fine with like adding an unprotected first to the trade to get rid of him. Probably, you're probably going to be competitive. So if we're looking at shedding Deng to make room for Paul George and James, I'm totally fine with giving an unprotected first to get out of Deng. I don't think it'll be too terribly hard to. Next summer you're looking at 2 years left. You're going to have a team somewhere that's still rebuilding and will take on a first-round pick for Luol Deng. But, yeah, thanks, Mitch and Jim. We're still stuck with these for a long time, it feels like.
I keep thinking that if LeBron does come out and say, like, I want to sign with the Lakers, that a team in the Eastern Conference will say, give us the Deng contract. Like, we'll take it for you. Just get him, like, send him to the West. Like, it kind of opens up the conference. Yeah, because, he's the guy that everybody keeps running into and just can't get by. So I would think that one team is like, we'll take 2 years of Luol Deng just to get him if it means that he's going to the Western Conference. Like, I don't know if it's a team like Toronto or Boston, one of those teams that's close but can't seem to get by him. So I don't know. So, we're all expecting – obviously, the Lakers, if they sign guys, which they're going to sign some guys, obviously, but we're expecting 1-year deals or 2-year deals, with a team option for the second year of the contract. My question is, and Jacob, I'll throw it to you first, but does their thinking change at all if, say, one of the stars, and this isn't a great free agency class for superstars, but say a Blake Griffin or Gordon Hayward, one of the top free agents in this class, reaches out to the Lakers and says, "Hey, I want to sign with you guys." If you're the Lakers, does that change your thought process and say, well, let's get this guy that we can get now, and then we can try and go get Paul George, and there's our 2-star combination with Lonzo and Brandon Ingram.
It should. If somebody like Griffin or Gordon Hayward, something like that. I mean, if for some reason they want to give LA a meeting and want to come to the Lakers, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like the end game here is by the end of next summer to have 2 max superstars on the team. It's the easiest assumption to say both of them will come next year because that's what the plan is. But, I mean, if you can grab one this year, by all means, I mean, it makes you that much more of an attractive option next year. If Paul George does go somewhere where they start winning, if you can say, oh, well, you're winning in Boston, but why don't you come here and play with Lonzo and Blake Griffin and Brandon Ingram, then, I mean, yeah, it's a lot easier to sell your team when you have another superstar, but I would be very surprised if that happened. It would also take some weird kind of maneuvering. They're at 82. Yeah, at best they'd have like 17 million in cap, so they'd almost certainly have to get rid of Clarkson somehow. But I mean, if it's a matter of getting rid of Clarkson to sign Blake Griffin, you attach a 1st-round pick with that, or whatever it takes.
Or maybe you attach Randall, I guess. I love Julius Randle more than anybody. But I think if Blake Griffin, says, hey, I want to stay in LA, but I don't want to play for the Clippers anymore, that would be a tough decision because, I mean, I'm a big believer in Randall. It sounds like the front office is too. Magic spoke very highly of him and that he's due for a breakout year this year and kind of believes in the work he's putting in. And that was great to hear because it makes me feel like, knock on wood, that he wouldn't be involved in a Paul George trade. Like they're not willing to throw him in because they expect big things from him this upcoming season. But I think if a guy like Blake Griffin or Paul Millsap, for example, I don't expect any of the 3 names we've mentioned so far to be interested in the Lakers. Griffin, I would say, is probably the most likely because he's been in LA. If he likes it there, he could still start fresh but stay close to home. I don't think any of those guys are coming, but if Griffin were to say, yeah, I want to, then I think you kind of have to explore the market for Randall and see if you can flip him for something else, maybe a 2-guard or another wing player, just something that fits better. Because you'd have, if he did come on board, you'd have Griffin, Randall, Nance, and Kuzma all at the 4, and then you have Deng still, who needs to play minutes at the 4. I mean, there would be nothing left for him. So, Dylan, do you agree with, kind of our viewpoint on if a star does reach out to the Lakers and say that he's interested, that you got to jump on that, or are you still kind of, waiting for LeBron and Paul George and that potential duo for those 2?
Yeah, I would say that they should definitely jump on any offer, any scenario where they would gain a max player. They're just not good enough right now to be like picky and choosy about their players. And a lot can change in the summer. Like all signs are showing that Paul George wants to come in 2018, but something could happen and he could not want to. So if they have the opportunity to get a max player, they definitely should jump on that this summer. But it's definitely not likely.
Yeah, no, I'm expecting a relatively quiet free agency period from the Lakers, and that's what it sounds like we can expect by all reports, I guess, that they'll go after 1-year guys, just kind of some stopgap options that aren't going to tie up their long-term flexibility, and they're going to go hard after next summer. So a year from now, I hope we just don't hear the same thing, I hope it's not a cycle, kind of like it was for a while with Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss, where it was, okay, we missed this summer, but we still got money for next summer, and then so on and so forth. And then eventually it becomes, well, we can't keep doing this. We got to sign somebody, and then that's how bad contracts are given out.
Hey guys, just remember D'Angelo Russell's a free agent in I think 2019. So,
God,
if we keep doing this a couple more years, we might be able to look into one.
I need to play that song "Let It Go" for Dylan. him and Anthony Brown, especially his obsession with Anthony Brown.
He's a free agent right now. I mean,
we're only about 2 years away from dealing Lonzo Ball with some contract to make room for, like, I don't even know, Karl Anthony Towns, make a run at him or something.
Yeah.
Is that how this is just going to play out?
All right. So we've talked about the approach for the Lakers. Expect a lot of stopgap options and cheap deals, one year contracts, nothing long term. Unless, a superstar comes knocking on that door, that could change a lot. And of course, there's the Paul George trade, which I don't think is happening anytime soon. It doesn't seem like Indy's really budging on their very high asking price, which I get that they're asking a lot, and I would too. I mean, that's the face of your franchise and one of the greatest players, arguably the greatest player your franchise has ever seen. It's certainly probably between him and Reggie Miller, but
well, and it's worth noting real quick. Mark Medina reported tonight that. Well, earlier this evening, I guess, that they wanted Ingram or Ball, and it doesn't look like a trade's likely. And then I'm going to butcher her name, Tanya Gangula with the LA Times, right before we went on, came out and said that George is still telling his friends that he wants to come to, and he understands that the Lakers aren't incentivized to make a trade. So it certainly sounds like the Lakers are out of the PG chase.
Well, you definitely want to have pieces in place when he comes aboard. You don't want to trade for him and then lose a bunch of games and then he change his mind and say, oh, well, this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And then, if he bails and you gave up assets to get him, you're really, really set back. And there's a lot more suffering going to be on the horizon. But with the Paul George thing aside, because I don't think it's going to happen soon. It might still happen this summer. I don't know. It would still be weird to me if he plays another game as a Pacer, but it wouldn't surprise me, I guess, at this point. But Dylan, what are some of the team needs still on the roster after the draft? The Lakers added 4 new prospects, obviously Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Kyle Kuzma, and Thomas Bryant. What are some of the needs, maybe positions that you think the Lakers should really target with the cap space that they still have?
Well, they definitely need guards and wings. They're pretty much set at, the bigs with all the bigs you listed earlier and Zubats and all those guys and Brook Lopez. So they definitely need guards. A nice backup point guard to play behind Lonzo would be nice. Shooters, they're right now is their best shooter percentage wise. And defenders. They don't really have anybody that's a proven defender on the team right now. So shooters and defenders and guards really would be my top priority.
But other than that, we're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we just, need those things. But, Jacob, I'm looking at the depth chart here, and I'll kind of run down really quick. So at point guard, they have Lonzo Ball, and that's it. Really, in terms of, true kind of like point guard abilities. And then at shooting guard, you have Jordan Clarkson, Josh Hart, and David Nwaba. And then at small forward right now, you're probably looking at Brandon Ingram, Luol Deng, Corey Brewer. Power forward, you have Julius Randle, Larry Nance Jr., Kyle Kuzma. And then at center, you have Brook Lopez, Ivica Zubats, Thomas Bryant, and you also have Tariq Black. And he's really interesting here because – Jacob, they got to make a decision quick on him with his non-guaranteed deal for next season, right?
I believe I should have looked it up before I started, but I believe Eric Pincus said they have to have a decision made by him or on him by the start of free agency tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you're listening to this, because The July 4th is when his contract becomes fully guaranteed. Right now, it's non-guaranteed at $6.65 million. July 4th, it becomes guaranteed. The moratorium lasts from the 1st through the 7th, I believe. But once the moratorium ends, his contract's guaranteed. So they can't waive him at any point next week. I mean, they can, but they'd be on the hook for the money.
Yeah.
So if they want to get out of his contract, they have to waive him before 9:01 Pacific time tomorrow to get out of his deal.
And that's interesting because with that deal locked in, he's certainly still a trade chip because it's an expiring deal, but at the same time, if you're trying
he's a good player, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I really like Tarik Black. I loved when we picked him up, and he's been all that I expected and more. When the Lakers signed him, but I came into this offseason thinking he's going to be an excellent trade chip because he has a non-guaranteed deal. So if a team wanted to shed salary, I had high hopes for the Rockets because they were reportedly, looking to trade Patrick Beverley. I thought he'd be awesome next to Lonzo Ball because he can really defend and he can shoot, and that would be great. And he could take the tougher defensive assignment and make things a little easier for Lonzo Ball. But he got traded to the Clippers in that Chris Paul deal. So, but that was the type of deal I was looking at with Tarik Black. If a team was just trying to shed salary, maybe it's still on the table if the Spurs are able to lure in one of these bigger free agents. The report was what they were after Chris Paul, but that's off the table now, obviously. So, I don't know. It's still a trade chip if it's locked in and guaranteed because it's an expiring deal. But I think a team would be kind of foolish to trade for him right now, to give up a second round pick for him. Because if the Lakers are trying to trade him, then I would just say, well, I'm going to wait a few days until it's either locked in or you just release him and I can just go get him off the waiver wire. So. That'll be interesting to see over the next day or next few hours, again, depending on when you're listening to this. But, I mean, Dylan, do you think there's any chance Tarik Black is on this roster for next season with the logjam that they have at the 4 and the 5?
I would say there's a slim chance, but it's really not likely. They need guards really badly, so I think that they should definitely not even really consider that. I mean, Tarik's a great player and all, and he's a good guy by all accounts, but they need some of that money to kind of spend on some free agents to clear up some of the positions of need. So I would say it's a really slim chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's unfortunate because I really like Tarik Black. I'd be bummed to see him leave, but at the same time, there's not a lot of room right now. With Zubac and Lopez. Those two are going to play the bulk of the minutes at the 5. Lopez especially, because Lopez is a good player. We haven't talked enough about his impact because he's still a very good offensive player, especially at the 5, a guy that can shoot. Had some injury problems in the past, but no, I mean, if he's healthy, he's going to be a big-time contributor for the Lakers. Honestly, I mean, for this season, he might be their best player. So – but at the same time, with Lopez, I wouldn't be surprised if he's traded by the deadline because he's got 1 year left on his contract, and I think if the Lakers end up re-signing him, then that's a sign of things.
Something went terribly wrong.
Yeah, things went wrong. We didn't get. I mean, maybe it means they got Paul George, but it means they didn't get somebody else to pair with Paul George. And the thing with Lopez is they have to renounce his bird rights. They have his bird rights right now, but they're going to have to renounce it because if they don't, then he has a $33 million cap hold. I mean, that's a third of the salary cap by himself. So, I mean, you've got to renounce that in order to have that room available. You can't just sign a player on top of that you don't have bird rights for. So, it's hard for me to envision him being a Laker beyond next season, but I'm also excited to see how he kind of helps Zubac and these other young, and Thomas Bryant, all these other young big guys that the Lakers have. And, and again, he's a good player. So, but I think, yeah, they're definitely set at the 4 and the 5. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at the depth chart with Ingram. I think Ingram's going to play a lot of minutes this season because the Lakers really, really believe in him, and I think they really want him to develop. I mean, he led all rookies in minutes last year, and he didn't have a great rookie season. So, and with Deng and Corey Brewer, I mean, they're going to get some minutes here, and they're probably enough to take up. And you've got Clarkson and Hart and Nwaba. I think Hart and Nwaba can play spot minutes at the 3. Nwaba plays much bigger than his 6'4" frame. So I don't know if there's a lot of minutes at the 3 either. So really, I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at point guards. I'm looking at point guards that you could get with 1-year deals, and the Lakers right now have roughly 10 to 11 million in cap space. But if they waive Tariq Black today, they'll be around 17 million in cap space. So Jacob, you have a target though that you would really, really like for the Lakers to go after, and possibly offer a pretty big 1-year deal just to get him on board as a stopgap option.
Yeah, I mean, my ideal kind of number one target, realistically, like we said earlier, my number one target is Kevin Durant. My realistic target would be his teammate, Sean Livingston. He's exactly what the Lakers need. He's a veteran point guard. Probably most importantly, he knows the system Luke wants to run. He can play off ball. He can kind of run the show. He checks all the. I mean, he's not a shooter. I know they said they wanted shooters. He's a really, really, really good mid-range shooter, but he's not a three-point shooter. He took 3 3-pointers all of last year, and I'd imagine each
That's
one
crazy.
of them was like late in the shot clock or something. But
yeah,
yeah. If I were the Lakers, the problem with signing Livingston is I'd imagine he's going to want, if he doesn't go back to the Warriors, he's going to want like a multi-year kind of guarantee type of thing. He's already, I believe he's 31. Lakers won't offer that. So if I were them, I'd just throw all the cap space they had at Livingston. Give him a 1-year, $17 million deal. I mean, it's no, I already said we're punting this year anyway. So yeah, give him a 1-year, $17 million deal. If it doesn't work out, then boo-hoo, you have your cap space next year. But I mean, anybody else the Lakers are going to sign is going to be a veteran minimum kind of guy that you hope can be a reclamation project, most likely. So just throw all the cap money you do have at somebody like Sean Livingston, bring him on board, and have him mentor Lonzo and Josh Hart and Clarkson for a year, and just have that kind of. I mean, like I said, he makes so much sense for what the Lakers need.
Stephen Curry's a free agent too. I mean, he wouldn't be bad.
Well, I was gonna say, you were talking about Kevin Durant. And his other teammate. I was like, well, there is another point guard on the Warriors that's a free agent too. He might not be a bad idea.
Ian Clark?
I mean,
well, you know what? He wouldn't be a bad idea either. We could sign anybody from the Warriors, and it would be like, all right, I can talk myself into this.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see teams just start picking off from the Warriors just to try and break them up a little bit, you know, even if it's just their second unit.
Yeah.
But
was it Woj tonight came out and said that teams are targeting Andre Iguodala as like the guy that they're gonna try to break up the Warriors? So yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Dylan, another guy that's been mentioned a lot amongst Lakers fans, of a point guard that's a free agent, is Darren Collison, which this one's really interesting to me because I can see the intrigue with him as a player because he's a good creator, he's a decent shooter, you know, brings some things to the table that the Lakers certainly need, and he's a veteran presence. But I guess just give me your thoughts on Darren Collison, and I'll kind of touch on, I guess, the whole off-court issues stuff in a second.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, he does have the off-court issues, so I'm not sure how willing, Rob and Magic would be to sign Darren Collison for that reason. But he's a really good player. He's a veteran guy. He played 68 games, I think, last year. Averaged 13 points a game. 5 assists. You know, he's got playmaking ability that the Lakers desperately need when they really the only playmaker on their team are Lonzo and Julius Randle at this point. So they definitely need another playmaker. He can space the floor a little bit, and he's a UCLA grad, so he might come back to LA and fit in that way, be like a good fan reception for that. But yeah, he's a good player, and it'd be worth a 1 year shot. So
it'd be really tough to sell the fan base though. After you traded away, a 21-year-old point guard with a lot of promise, with a main reason being character issues and off-court issues and things like that. And then, with Collison's domestic violence, I mean, this wasn't even a charge. Like, he was found guilty of it. And you preached, for the past few weeks now that you want high character guys, you want leaders. And then, with the whole character thing, and then if you signed him, that's I don't know. That'd be a really, really tough sell to fans and everybody really that's interested in the Lakers. So I'm seeing a lot of
and Magic.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say on that Spectrum interview that we referenced earlier, where he talked about Julius Randle, he also kind of started it off saying that this was like what they wanted. So I mean, if they say that, and he was like super adamant about it, and go and sign Darren Collison, red flag, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking at the comment stream, and a lot of people were kind of taken back by the amount Jacob suggested for Livingston. If you guys, I mean, we're talking about offering 1 year deals here. So, I mean, if you're offering a 1 year deal, that doesn't tie you up beyond one season. So,
yeah, there's absolutely no risk to it. I mean, the Lakers have like two positions of need. They need a backup point guard, and they probably need a shooter. I mean, shooters are kind of a dime a dozen. I know we have other guys, or some guys we might mention here in a minute, but I mean, that market's really thin for what the price range the Lakers are working at. John Livingston's that guy, and it's a 1 year deal. I mean, it does absolutely no harm this year. You're not going to get anybody else with that cap money.
And the thing is, the Lakers, I mean, with the current roster projection, have 13 players, already on their roster for next season. So they can sign 2 players to be on the active roster, and then they have two-way contract options, which I would imagine one will go to Dozier, and then maybe one more player. But it's 14 if they do keep.
Brown.
If they, God damn it, Dylan, shut up. But no, if Tariq Black is on the team, that's 14 players, which leaves one position available. So I mean, and to get a guy in a 1 year deal, especially if he's getting multi-year deals, 2 or 3 year deals being offered elsewhere, you're going to have to pay more. Because these guys want long-term stability. Like they want more money over the long haul. But yeah, I mean, if it's a 1 year deal, I'm not worried about the amount really with this team because they don't have a ton of roster spots open. They have 2 right now as currently projected. So, but there's some other free agents on the market. A guy I obviously like because he's a Tar Heel, and Jacob, you mentioned this before we went on, I think, but Raymond Felton is was honestly decent. As many jokes as there are about Raymond Felton, he had a decent year last year with the Clippers, and maybe that's because he had a better supporting cast around him. And I don't know if that would change, obviously, with the Lakers. And he's a little bit older, but he is a veteran that's played a lot of games in the NBA, and maybe that's that's not the worst guy that could mentor Lonzo Ball. It's not the best guy either, but at the same time, the Lakers, if you're offering 1 year deals, I don't know what his price tag would be, but if you're offering 1 year deals, you can't be overly picky here because you're not going to have a ton of guys that want to sign just for 1 year. But I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts on Tyreke Evans. It's another player that has played point guard. He's an unrestricted free agent. I don't know if he would sign a 1 year deal, but what would you guys think about adding his playmaking ability, or is his lack of shooting just that's just wipes him off the table for you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm like you said, with a 1-year deal, I'm not really worried about. I'm pretty much willing to risk it on just about anybody, so long as they don't have off-court issues. Darren Collison. There's not really off-court issues with Tyreke Evans. The Lakers need playmaking pretty badly. So yeah, I mean, he's a weird guy. His rookie season was amazing, and everything was kind of downhill after that. But if you sign him on like a kind of a 1-year deal, I don't really know what his market value would be. But if you sign him kind of on a 1-year deal where the idea is he has to kind of prove himself, then who knows? I mean, again, it's 1 year. If he's bad, he's gone. You have the cap space for your grand plan here and next summer anyway. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I pretty much the only guy I don't want that we mentioned is Darren Collison. I mean, anybody else, I'm open to taking the chance on him.
Well, and Ty Lawson, as much as I love Ty at North Carolina, he's had off-court issues as well. Obviously different, with the alcohol and stuff. But like that's I don't know if he's changed at all. We don't see these guys on an everyday basis, but like there were reports of him showing up to practice, after drinking, being drunk and stuff. And I mean, that's not what you want in the locker room, especially around a young point guard. I mean, so but yeah, Tyreke, I'm not a huge fan of, but I could see wanting to bring him along and kind of ease the burden of playmaking that Lonzo Ball is going to have next to probably Julius Randle as the two primary or your two best playmakers. So, I mean, I would get it, but ideally, yeah, I'd want somebody that can help space the floor a little bit more and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for Tyreke Evans, I think it was 1 year, $15 million is what the Magic paid for Jeff Green last summer, and I can't really see him getting anything that high. But I mean, if the Lakers were to sign him, I would assume it'd be like some kind of deal like that, like a 1 year, like $10 to $14 million a year or something like that. Which I mean, I wouldn't be that opposed to. He can't be much. Like, we need a backup point guard. So,
Jacob, what do you think about? And it's too bad Hani's not on this podcast. But what do you think about bringing back potentially Ramon Sessions on a 1-year deal? Because I believe his team option was declined today, so he will be a free agent. So what do you think about that possibility?
We probably won't be in the playoffs next year, so he won't be terrible. I mean, he was a really good regular.
On Hani's birthday, man.
Yeah, I mean he's really went downhill since that season in LA. But yeah, I mean, he's a veteran. He's played in LA. That's got to be worth something. I mean, he makes sense as a backup.
He knows what it means to be a Laker.
Yeah, he's in the Laker family, so he could get a front office position probably. But yeah, I mean, he's probably another one of those guys that's kind of like a prove it type of guy. You sign him to a deal and say, like, hey, here's a chance to prove that you're worth something and can get a bigger deal next year. But my list, but again, I mean, if we sign him, I'm not going to be upset about it.
Yeah, I think you could certainly do worse. I mean, he certainly didn't become what a lot of people thought he was going to be, and I was kind of bummed when he did it out, back then when he was with the Lakers, because I thought, there's some promise there, but then they got Steve Nash, which I thought was going to be great, and then wasn't great, and yeah, I mean, it would have probably been a train wreck either way. But
I mean, he's a part of a pretty crazy what if. Like, he kind of unexpectedly turned down the team or his player option with the Lakers, and then his agent kind of he kind of misjudged the market, and the Lakers didn't want to pay him what his agent said he was worth, and then they went and traded for Steve Nash. So I mean, there's an alternate reality where Ramon Sessions picks up his player option, and the Lakers probably don't trade for Steve Nash.
Yeah, I wondered that. I wondered all those different alternate realities. But Dylan, are there any other point guards that you're kind of keeping an eye on as potential one-year guys before we transition real quick into the shooting guards?
I think Langston Galloway. I think that he has a player option for next year, I believe, or he might be a free agent outright. Langston Galloway is another guy. He's rather young, pretty solid shooter. He played for the Pelicans last year before he was traded with Buddy and all those guys. So, I mean, maybe him. He would be a nice addition. Could space the floor a little bit, but yeah. Other than that, the point guard market's pretty dry this summer.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be tough. I mean Lonzo's gonna get a lot of opportunities to play. So I mean we'll see. I guess I'll kind of run through the list, and if there's any guys you want to kind of touch on, maybe you like or you dislike, just go ahead and let me know after I read through this list. But some potential point guards, whether they've got team options, player options, non-guaranteed contracts, whatever, that could be 1-year guys. Looking through this list, so Devin Harris, Darren Williams, C.J. Watson. I'm not even going to throw Rondo in this list. We mentioned Sessions, Norris Cole, Jarrett Jack. I doubt Jarrett Jack will get looked at because I believe he tore his Achilles, right?
And he's really old.
Yeah. Although, I mean, he's a good veteran. Like, he mentored some really good point guards. But George Hill's going to be too expensive. Beno Udrih, Brandon Jennings, Gravis Vasquez, Brian Roberts.
I know one. Michael Carter Williams.
Oh, my God.
There's a name out there. Magic sprayed some on Twitter.
You're done. You're done.
I mean, one other guy I would mention, I don't know if he's on your list or not, but we mentioned him before the pod. He might be too expensive, and I don't know that he'll be looking for a 1-year deal, but it would be Shelvin Mack.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how things are going to shake out in Utah. If George Hill leaves, I would imagine they'd throw a pretty good offer his way because he was pretty good in Utah. But, yeah, if George Hill stays and he might want to be kind of a starter somewhere else, then the Lakers could throw some money at him, but the biggest problem with the Lakers is they kind of handcuff themselves as to what players they could even go after.
Yeah.
With literally outright coming out and saying we're only going to offer 1-year deals. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think Shelvin Mack's going to want a 1-year deal. It'd be another case where you just have to throw a huge amount of money his way. But he's an interesting name that, I mean, if he came, I could see him being the starter alongside Lonzo.
You know who's another really interesting name? Marcelo Huertas.
Catalyst, bring him back.
Bring back the Catalyst. He's a free agent. Yeah, I mean, there's some decent options at point guard, to be a stopgap, a 1-year guy that can bring some depth, maybe some mentorship, some, veteran leadership, playmaking, shooting, whatever kind of skill set they might need. So, there's definitely some guys to look at there. Let's talk about the shooting guards a little bit, and a name that gets brought up a lot with this, and we've talked about it. We talked about it on one of the podcasts a while back. But JJ Redick it's already reported that he's not going back to the Clippers. Chris Paul's gone. There's his primary playmaker gone. I'm opposed to JJ Redick, not because he went to Duke, but just because, I think he's going to get paid pretty well. And Dylan, I'll give this one to you first, but does it make sense to you, like JJ Redick and the Lakers? Do you think a 1-year deal could get done between those guys?
I'm not sure for 1 year. I don't think that a 1-year deal would happen, but I would certainly be all for it. He's probably going to want some security like all the other guys. Honestly, he's getting up there in age, and he might want to play for a contender still. So the Lakers don't really have much to offer in terms of length of a contract or on-court product, really. But I would throw all the money they possibly could at him for a year and see if he bites. He'd be a great he's a solid team defender, and he's obviously one of the best shooters in the NBA. So they could definitely use his ability on both those aspects. So JJ would be an awesome addition, but I just don't see it getting done.
Yeah, I mean he's 34 years old.
But if it did get done, it wouldn't be because Jordan Clarkson was. If it didn't get done, it wouldn't be because Jordan Clarkson wasn't trying with those tweets.
He's already recruiting them.
At least we got some players finally trying to recruit guys. I feel like Mitch Kupchak was just like, don't ever tweet. You know, I don't want to be get in trouble for tampering.
Mitch Kupchak was probably like, "What's Twitter?"
Oh man, Jacob, what are your thoughts on JJ Redick? You're the Duke fan here, so.
I'd obviously love him, but yeah, I think he's going to be just too. He's going to be out of like the Lakers price range. I mean, he's probably going to make. I mean, I've seen some places suggest he could make up to like $15 million a year, which is crazy to give to a 34-year-old shooting guard. But I mean, if the Lakers only have $17 million, you can't offer enough you would get annually on a multi-year deal to convince him to come for 1 year. Your best bet is that he just absolutely loves LA, does not want to leave, and the Clippers aren't an option anymore for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, if you can get him play-wise or like on court, shooting guard, can come off screens, can knock down mid-range, can knock down threes. He's running the pick and roll. Maybe can't handle the ball as well as you would like with a guy next to Lonzo, but I mean, if you can get him, he's a absolutely great player to have, and you could even potentially flip him at the trade deadline. But yeah, I don't see it as much of an option. I'd be stunned if they got him because he's going to make more. I mean, he's going to make almost as much on a multi-year deal as what the Lakers can offer him in 1 year.
Yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. They're on totally different timelines. It's kind of the same with same thing with Kyle Korver to me. I feel like they're guys that are going to get paid by at least teams that are, I mean, just far more competitive. And yeah, I mean, it's just it doesn't make sense to me. I think he's going to get paid a lot more, and yeah, I just don't see it happening on a 1 year deal. I did misspeak though. He's 33. I said he was 34. He's 33. So my bad on that.
He's still too old. Too old to be giving $15 million a year.
Yeah, I still think he's a guy that if you give out a big 4 year deal or even a 3 year deal, that's one you're gonna regret. You're gonna regret doing that. But
around to hand out that deal.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I like Mitch. Let's just blame Jim Buss, right?
Jim Buss isn't around to hand out that deal.
Yeah. Another option that, I mean, there's a couple of former Lakers that, I mean, could be in play here at shooting guard because, I mean, Clarkson can play spot minutes at backup point guard, even though it's not something I like. But it's certainly possible. And they could also bring back Tyler Ennis for a very cheap deal. You never know. That's definitely a possibility.
Please no.
Yeah, I'd probably rather not, but it's possible. Another guy that I like though at the shooting guard position, you'd have to probably really overpay. I think you'd have to give him a pretty hefty, contract for 1 year. But that's Thabo Sefolosha, guy that's his shooting has definitely improved. I mean, a few years back when he was with the Thunder, it was like you were not coming within 12 feet of him. Like you wanted him to shoot the ball. And now I don't remember his percentage off the top of my head, but he's a respectable shooter, excellent defender. And I think, I mean, that would probably be your starting two next to Lonzo, with Clarkson off the bench kind of roaming both positions. But that's a guy I like, but I mentioned a couple of former Lakers that, I mean, could possibly be in play at the two guard spot. Would be Jody Meeks and Wayne Ellington. They're both potential free agents. I think Ellington's still on a non-guaranteed deal, so we don't know for sure if he is. I mean, Dylan, what are your thoughts on those three guys? Obviously, Sefolosha is probably the most attractive piece, but what are your just general thoughts on those three?
Thabo would definitely be the number one choice in that bunch, but I think they all offer something that the Lakers need, whether it's shooting with Meeks and Ellington, or shooting a little bit of shooting and some defense with Tabo. I think those are all three solid veteran options that you could probably get for pretty good deals just for a year as a rental. So I would be certainly fine with either of those. And I've always wanted to bring the hashtag Jody Meeks be like back, so that'd be all right.
Jacob, another two guys at the shooting guard position, and I've heard you talk about one of them specifically, is Randy Foye, but also Aaron Aflalo. I mean, of those two, are either of those two potential options? And if they are, which one would you rather have?
I'm pretty out on Aaron Aflalo. I mean, I wrote about him today. No, last night. It published today, I believe. About him, like a profile of him. He was not good last year. He was getting DNPs before the Kings even started to tank. Brook Lopez took roughly 230 more threes than him last year. And Brooks wasn't like some unbelievable knockdown scorer in the mid-range either. He shot, it's a little deceiving because if you just look at his percentages, he shot 41% from three, but it was I believe it was like his lowest three-point rate since like his third year in the league. He just doesn't shoot threes. He just isn't a good fit. And that's not even talking about his defense, which, yeah, that's an even worse story.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't think that he's going to come very cheap. Randy Foye would be much cheaper and is probably fills a bit more of a need. He can shooting guard. He can probably handle the ball a little bit for you. He's kind of a point guard, shooting guard hybrid. I actually kind of like Randy Foye. In terms of kind of the cheaper two guards on the market, he's up there. He didn't shoot it quite as well last year, but he was also on the Brooklyn Nets, and nobody on Brooklyn played well last year. So yeah, I would definitely take Foye over Aflalo. I know Aflalo has the LA connection, but man, he's bad.
Another somewhat potential option that would make some sense would be Leandro Barbosa. He has a non-guaranteed deal for next season. It's at $4 million. So I doubt he becomes available because that's a really cheap contract for a quality backup guard. But he was with the Warriors. Like, he obviously is familiar with Luke Walton and that type of system that they run. So if he did become available, that could be a potential guy that can make plays a little bit and just give you good veteran leadership, and is still a quality bench player. But yeah, I think the focus is going to be mostly on the point guard position, because I think, I think you have Lonzo, who's obviously going to probably play, let's say, around 30 minutes a game. That's about where most of the young players were for the Lakers last year. And that's, I think, where Luke Walton wants it. I don't think he wants them around like 36, 37 minutes. So, but you have Clarkson, you have Hart, you have Nwaba. Ingram can probably play spot minutes at the two, maybe Brewer. So, even Lonzo can play some minutes at the two, although he's going to be your primary ball handler. But yeah, I just think I keep looking at point guards, but one guy I will say, although he's more of a three, but Brandon Rush is a free agent, and the Timberwolves just got Jimmy Butler. So, they kind of got a guy that's going to play a ton of minutes, so they don't have really any kind of need for Brandon Rush, but it would make sense because you got the Warriors and Luke Walton connection, obviously, and he's a good shooter. He's an okay defender. I honestly I didn't follow him last year, so I don't know if his defense has fallen off from what it kind of used to be. But that's another guy that would make sense. I think when you're looking at these free agents, those are the type of players you kind of have to look at. Like you guys were mentioning earlier, the reclamation projects, not the guys that are going to get 3 and 4 year deals at pretty hefty price tags. So
the perfect kind of example of that, I don't think we mentioned him, Ben McLemore.
Right.
He's 24. He was a lottery pick like 3-4 years ago. I'm not even sure it was that long ago. I would much rather have him as opposed to Aaron Aflalo, if we're talking about kind of former Kings guards. But he's the type of guy that makes a lot of sense as a reclamation project. And a couple other guys, Anthony Morrow, he'd be probably a veteran minimum guy. He's more of just kind of like Brandon Rush, just kind of a shooter, floor spacer. I don't think we mentioned him. KJ McDaniels. I know a lot of fans have been high on him, but he hasn't been good. It was one of those, he had a lot of potential, but now you're kind of like, well, he isn't really realizing that potential or fulfilling it. So there's a problem there probably. So, but even on, again, a 1-year deal, I'm for it. We mentioned Randy Foye. The only other one that I thought could be interesting, I think he might be I'm not really sure if he fits in terms of what we may offer him, but would be Tim Hardaway Jr. He's a restricted free agent. I know the Hawks were trying to trade him at the deadline, and they were only looking for like second-round picks for him. So I don't know how much they really value him, but a whole lot of money his way. But if it's a 1-year deal, I can't see the Hawks not matching it. I don't know. That'd be kind of a weird situation. And it's going to be hard for the Lakers to come up with an offer that the Hawks wouldn't match. Oh, Gary's gone. Yeah, and then the shooting guard market's a little more intriguing than market. I don't know that Justin Holiday is another one that could be interesting. He's a former Warriors guard as well.
Yeah,
he's only 28.
I wrote about Justin Holiday I think 2 days ago, and he's somebody that I've wanted on the team for a couple years now. And he would be an awesome player to add to this young core, even for a couple years down the road. But I just don't see him not getting like a decent pay raise this summer. So, and there had been talks about him and Drew going to the Mavericks anyway. But he would be a great player to get. He does a lot of things well, and he's a good shooter from deep. He is really good from the corners. He's great off screens and catch and shoot opportunities. And he's a pretty solid defender, so he would be a great get. But I just don't think that's super realistic. But if they could pull that off, he's probably my number one target this summer, actually.
Besides, I would say Sasha Vujacic, maybe.
Ron Baker.
Let's not forget. Oh, God damn it, Dylan. Dylan's like dream team is like my most annoying players list.
Yeah, Ron Baker, Anthony Brown.
Well, except for D'Angelo. I like D'Angelo, but
yeah.
But yeah, the other guys you like, I'm just like, I want to slap you through the screen. But
those three could probably take on the rest of the league. Honestly, we don't even need.
Oh my God.
Another 2 starters.
All right.
Well,
so
yeah, just going back to Justin Holiday real quick, he's exactly the type of guy the Lakers have handcuffed themselves from going after because they won't offer multi-year deals. It's frustrating. Kind of bring it full circle to the first question of the podcast, but it's frustrating that this is the route they took because there's a lot of these types of guys that could be interesting to sign, but we're kind of not going to sign them. So,
yeah,
there's better payoff.
Like I would
swear we better be starting Paul George and LeBron James on opening night in 2018.
Like I would love for them to sign Justin Holiday to like a 3 or 4 year deal, but there's just no chance that happening this summer, and it's really disheartening, But hopefully they get the big names next summer. So.
I think it's important for this summer for fans to really kind of lower their expectations with free agency, because when you're offering 1 year deals, like I was saying earlier, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get significant difference makers. And, you know, it's going to be kind of names that are probably less than desirable. And, you know, it is what it is. You know, you might end up with, you know, a Wayne Ellington or a Jody Meeks coming back, or, you know, best case scenario, I mean, honestly, at like the 2-guard spot is like a Thabo Cephalosha. And at point guard, I wouldn't expect a whole lot either. Maybe you can snag a veteran, you know, that they can come in and play quality backup minutes, but you know, we'll see. I just don't expect the Lakers to be major players at all with free agency this year.
I saw somebody in the comments say they should bring back Andrew Goudlock. You know, I think that
Mini Mamba
needs to make a comeback.
Bring back the floater.
I'm for it. Let's do it.
Darius Morris. Let's do it.
Oh, no, too far.
We're getting
the
band back together. All right. Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. If I were the Lakers, I'd look to try and also take expiring deals. I mentioned this earlier. Expiring deals off of teams that are trying to shed, you know, contracts to make cap space to sign, you know, big name free agents. I don't know who that might be now. Like I said, I wanted Patrick Beverley, but I don't know. Maybe I doubt Tony Parker is a guy, because I figured he might be a guy if the Spurs were able to get Chris Paul, but now I'm not seeing it. So it'll be interesting.
This is all just deja vu again. We did the same thing with Jeremy Lin, like, you know, waiting to try to chase big names. Gosh, it's so frustrating. I know I keep harping on it, but it's the same thing that got Mitch and Jim fired, and the new regime came in and said, let's try this. So
let's try it. Same thing, better energy, more energy. I will say that
but Magic's betting on himself, so I guess that changes everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with it. I thought they were on a great track with their young core and just keep adding to it, and they were on a great timeline to get good. I think hit their prime together right when the Warriors were starting to fall off. But, you know, this is kind of the bed that they've made, and I guess we'll see. Hopefully Paul George is the starter opening night next to Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and Julius Randle and Brook Lopez. That could be a really fun lineup, but it looks like they're still pretty far apart on that deal. So we'll see. But, guys, free agency starts in less than 24 hours, but then a week from today, Summer League. We've got Summer League to look forward to, and that's going to be a lot of fun. For anybody that's listening to this, and if you're going to be in Las Vegas for Summer League, I personally will be there from July 7th to the 12th, and I think a couple of us will be in a similar time frame. We usually get there for the beginning of Summer League, where you know when the Lakers play. If you want to meet up with us, just hit us up on Twitter. Shoot us a tweet, and we'll get some together. I know we met a ton of people last year, and we just had a blast. The event is so much fun, and we've got some guys coming this year from Lakers Outsiders that weren't there last year or the year before, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to it. But that's going to do it for us for the free agency pod. It's tough to preview free agency when we're talking about 1-year deals. So it kind of limits everything.
At least we'll be able to go to bed or go into free agency knowing that we're not going to be signing Timofey Mozgov to a 4-year, $64 million deal at 12:01. So
our first call won't be at 12:01 to Timofey Mozgov.
At least we can rest assured that that's not going to happen. So,
I mean,
I
hope so. I hope there's not a change of heart somewhere along the line. I hope you guys didn't just jinx it, but no. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that guard is the biggest position of need. They need playmakers, shooting or defense, in some way, shape, or form. We'll see. We'll see. That right now, that starting 2-guard looks pretty worrisome. So, but for everybody that tuned in and that listens to this on iTunes, you can get all of our podcasts. You can subscribe to us on iTunes and on YouTube. We do YouTube Live, obviously, and then iTunes. It'll be up on iTunes the following day. And we'll pod again before Summer League, but we are going to also have a ton of coverage from Summer League. We're going to just be having a blast down there, and we hope a lot of you guys join us. But that's going to do it for us this time. Again, you can subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube. You can find all of our content on LakersOutsiders.com, and you can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Lakers Outsiders. Oh, and one more thing before I sign off. We did do the NBA Mock Draft Challenge. I will be announcing the winner to that on Twitter on Saturday. I just haven't had time to really tally up the scores and everything, but I didn't forget about it. Saturday, the winner will be named, and we'll send the prize to him. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But Jacob, Dylan, thank you guys for joining me. It's always later for you guys because you're out east, but I always appreciate it. And to the followers that followed along and sent us questions and all that sort of thing, we always appreciate it. So thanks everybody again, and until next time, Lakers Outsiders signing off.